We're on the podcast. We're live. Hello. Hello, welcome to Sometimes Video Games. This is a podcast where we have nothing to talk about, so we're just going to talk shit for like about an hour and a bit.
Way to sell it, Adam.
Look, right. I don't know what else you expect.
I don't know, some sort of showmanship, some sort of salesmanship.
You know what? I think I've decided something.
Oh no.
You know video games?
I'm aware of them.
You know what? They're not that great, are they? They're a bit rubbish.
I believe that you're the only one of us playing a video game at this moment in time.
I mean, yeah, but only out of irony.
You're ironically playing Katamari Damacy as we podcast.
Yeah, I'm playing... For you there, listeners, I am playing Katamari Damacy, a game which Adam introduced me to.
On our stream last week, you can see the VOD downstairs, and there's going to be a video edited soon on our YouTube channel.
There's something oddly soothing about devouring the world.
It is about devouring the world, yeah. It's good. It's good. Bro, let's talk about Katamari Damacy for a minute, because I know we all love it. Louis, what were your first impressions of Katamari Damacy?
Awkward. It felt like that'd be a chore to play and to control.
I mean, first of all, let's get this correct. You started with the keyboard.
I wanted to try with the keyboard because Adam was like, "Yo, Louis, use a keyboard. It'll be funny." I saw the controls for the keyboard and I was like, I'm gonna not do that.
Well, no, it was you did the controls for the key. You did the basic movement one, and then you saw the control for the dash specifically, and were like, "Oh no, I would rather not," which makes a lot of sense because the dashing is. Oh, you were immediately like, I'm getting a controller."
Yeah, I mean, Katamari Damacy on a mouse and keyboard sounds just wrong.
It's just a keyboard. Not even a mouse, just a keyboard.
It's just wrong.
Like, I don't know how you would improve it with the mouse, but like with just a keyboard, it's it's very weird. Considering it's a game built for the analog stick as well, like one of those.
I mean, yeah.
One of those. How is everyone? I'm Adam. And as per usual, I'm joined by Charlie Walsh. Hello.
You're right.
And Louis Birtwistle. Hello. Oh God, I don't know what happened there.
What?
you just died.
It was the sound cancelling thing. Killed Louis' voice. Killed Louis' voice.
Yeah. You just completely died. You went, but it was like, ooh. The sound cancelling does not like you. It is decided that you are not a voice. You are a booming presence from outside.
Yeah.
From beyond.
You are a presence from the beyond. How would you like to be a presence from beyond?
I feel like I'm not a presence from beyond.
You're not at the moment, but would you like to be one?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Cool. Right,
yeah, I vibe it.
Good to know. Yeah, you vibe it. Yeah, good to know. So so your initial impressions of Katamari Damacy was like, oh, this is weird and awkward, and then when we played we played it online, we played it on stream. What were you thinking after? I know you were enjoying it while you were on stream, but what was the point where you started to enjoy it?
I feel like just the whole concept where it's like, oh, I've got to eat everything. Oh, that's kind of cool. And then it's like, oh my god, my thing's getting bigger. And then just like, obviously, completing the missions just felt good. And obviously, and the characters were just kind of goofy and silly.
King of All Cosmos is particularly ridiculous.
Yeah, he upsets me because I really like the little Prince character.
Prince is great. Prince looks amazing. I love Prince. Everyone loves Prince, right?
Well, depends what Prince you're talking about. I don't like that Prince.
Which Prince? The artist formerly known as Prince.
But I like the Prince of the Cosmos, if that's what you want to call it.
Yes, I meant the Prince of the Cosmos, not the artist formerly known as Prince, nor any of the royals in particular.
Good, because I really, really wasn't sure.
I mean, most people tend to like the artist formerly known as Prince as well, I think.
Yeah, I think they do.
You know, well, apart from some of the weird stuff that's come out recently, you know, after his...
Oh, I don't even know about that. I just don't like his music. It's just
Fair.
not for me.
Apparently he was a bit abusive towards Annie Lennox. Was it Annie Lennox or was it someone else?
Well,
No,
let's
it
be
was
honest.
it was what's her name? Who did nothing compares to you. I can't
Well,
remember
let's
her
be
name.
honest. We all kind of knew he was a bit of a dick.
I mean, yeah, he apparently was a bit of a dick, but like I don't know if he'd done much else. But yeah, he was just a bit of a dick apparently. That's what happened. Never meet your heroes, guys.
Well, sometimes your heroes are alright, is all I'll say.
When
I
is
don't know,
when is your
I'm a
hero
firm-
ever been alright?
I'm a firm
Wow.
believer in never meet your heroes, or never. I've always kind of been like never associate a person for the work that they create. I've learned. It's something I've learned to do.
Yeah, I think. So I think we've talked about this
Because
before.
there are a lot of things that I like, which is just made by horrendous people. Like for instance, you know, like my favorite books are all H.P. Lovecraft books. He's
Sure.
an awful human being, by the way.
Yeah. Well,
Like awful human being.
was he an awful human being, or was he just like crazy racist? And at the time, being racist was normal. Because I don't know much else about him other than his cat's name.
Little from column A, little from column B.
Sure, because like I. So what did he do other than call his cat the N word?
Oh, his cat.
Did he?
His cat's name was the N word.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I assumed for the time he would have been a numpty anyway, but I didn't know.
Yeah, no, his
that was
cat's
just a thing.
name was the N word. So, like...
My dude, please.
But like, I don't know if there was anything else that he did specifically. I assume, and I don't assume that calling your cat the N word is normal, but like also
You'd hope not.
to a point where I'm like, didn't everyone just hate black people at that point? Like,
Yeah.
did he
But that's
do
why I
something
assumed,
more?
but I didn't.
It's also
again,
like how how people like Harry Potter, but then J.K. Rowling's like, haha, trans people bad, because she decides that's how she wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't know.
None
mean,
of those. I don't know if I can really. I mean, I feel like I can compare those examples, even though one, by the standard, was considered okay, the other one wasn't.
Okay, so the first, I'm looking at H.P. Lovecraft, and the first line of his personal views are, Lovecraft began his life as a Tory.
Well, there we go then. Found it.
Sure. This is likely the result of his conservative upbringing. His family supported the Republican Party for the entirety of his life. It's unclear how consistently he voted. He voted for Herbert Hoover in the 1928 presidential election. Lovecraft was an Anglophile who supported the British monarchy. He opposed democracy and thought that America should be governed by an aristocracy.
As a fair enough.
His personal justification for his viewpoints was primarily based on tradition and aesthetics.
Yeah, cool. Aesthetics don't run countries, my friend.
He's like, you know, the Queen's
I
cool, right? We should get a queen.
Aesthetic. I think that we should only be ruled by people who wear the colour mauve.
What the fuck is that?
The sort of level of stupidity he's bringing, bro.
It's kind of reddish, right? Mauve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A sort of reddish, purplish kind of colour.
As a result of the Great Depression, Lovecraft re-examined his political views. Initially, he thought that affluent people would take on the characteristics of his ideal aristocracy and solve America's problems. When this did not occur, he became a socialist. This shift was caused by his observation that the Depression was harming American society. That's a great observation there.
Wow, he's struggled.
yeah.
He one of the great thinkers of our time.
It was also influenced by the increase in socialism's political capital during the 1930s.
I don't think it was, you know.
What? The Great Depression wasn't that bad?
Yeah, I don't think it was harming society.
Oh, okay. One of the main points of Lovecraft's socialism was his opposition to Soviet Marxism, as he thought that a Marxist revolution would bring about the destruction of American civilization. So he was a socialist, not a Marxist. Very specifically different there. Lovecraft thought that an intellectual aristocracy needed to be formed. So he's a socialist, but still because of aristocracy and not because of anything else.
Well, you know,
his
he had
ideal
his
political
reasons,
system is outlined in his essay Some Repetitions on the Times. Lovecraft used this essay to echo the political proposals that have been made over the course of the last few decades. In this essay, it advocates governmental control of resource distribution, fewer working hours and a higher wage, and unemployment insurance and old age pensions. He also outlines the need for an oligarchy of intellectuals.
It's good that he wasn't put in charge of anything, isn't it?
True. In his view, power must be restricted to those who are sufficiently intelligent and educated. He frequently used the term fascism to describe this form of government, but it bears little resemblance to that ideology. He was a supporter of Franklin D. Roosevelt, which is fine, I guess.
If you've somehow skipped into the podcast, yes, we are currently just reading through his
We're just
Wikipedia page.
reading H.P. Lovecraft's Wikipedia page. Internationally, like many Americans, he initially expressed support for Adolf Hitler. More specifically, he thought that Hitler would preserve German culture. However,
He thought Hitler was a cool geezer.
I mean, that based on Lovecraft's like ideals now, it might just be like that mustache was cool, right?
Yeah. He liked his vibe.
However, he thought that Hitler's racial policies should be based on culture rather than descent. Interesting. There is evidence that at the end of his life, Lovecraft began to oppose Hitler. According to Harry K. Brobst, Lovecraft's downstairs neighbour went to Germany and witnessed Jews being beaten. Lovecraft and his aunt were angered by this. His discussions of Hitler drop off after this point.
Wow.
Fair.
So we know it was okay. I was like, I mean, I understand him hating the Jews and all that, but I mean, I wish he hated people based off, you know, their upbringing rather than their.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, like his views on Lovecraft's views on Hitler, I guess, are Hitler was kind of cool because he wanted to preserve German culture. However, he should maybe not target people based on their descent, and maybe target them based on the stuff that they are taught to do. Also, maybe don't beat up the Jews because that's uncool.
I mean, you know, the point. I mean, you know.
I
guess the point is.
Yes. Also, Lovecraft was an atheist, apparently.
Fair.
Yeah.
He was an atheist in America. That's brave. Even in today, that's not quite brave.
Yeah, Right, so Lovecraft's an interesting individual, right?
He's an individual. That is something that we can confer from his Wikipedia page.
We can.
The thing is though, right? I can meet your heroes because I have, and he was bloody great. So
before we move on to Charlie's hero, I do want to read the race section. This is only small.
I tried.
You did try.
I gave it a good shot.
You did try. I just wanted to check what his views on race were.
We've returned back to the Lovecraft Wikipedia page.
I wanted
to
check what Lovecraft's views on race were, considering we know what his cat is called. It would be interesting to know. So race is the most controversial aspect of Lovecraft's legacy, expressed in many disparaging remarks against non-Anglo-Saxon races and cultures in his works. As he grew older, his original racial worldview became a classism or elitism, which regarded the superior race to include all those self-ennobled through high culture. From the start, Lovecraft did not hold all white people in uniform high regard, but rather esteemed English people and those of English descent. In his early published essays, private letters and personal utterances, he argued for a strong colour line to preserve race and culture. His arguments were supported using disparagements of various races in his journalism letters, and allegorically, I can't even say that word, allegorically in his fictional works that depict non-human races. This is evidence.
Let's be honest, he probably thought black people weren't pretty enough for him, given his logic.
Initially, Lovecraft showed sympathy to minorities who adopted Western culture, even to the extent of marrying a Jewish woman, who he viewed as well assimilated. By the 1930s, Lovecraft's views on ethnicity and race had moderated. He supported ethnicities preserving their native cultures, For example, he thought that a real friend of civilization wishes to merely make the Germans more German, the French more French, the Spaniards more Spanish, and so on. So it represented a shift from his previous support for cultural assimilation. However, this did not represent a complete elimination of his racial prejudices. So, his views on race are, like, if you're English and you're posh, you're cool. If you want to try and be that, you are also cool. Right?
Let's go with that.
Do you disagree, Charlie?
No, I just stopped listening.
Okay, that's it. That's good for it. Who's your bloody hero, Charlie? Who did you meet?
No,
what knobhead did you meet?
I was literally just trying to stop us reading the Wikipedia page of H.P. Lovecraft.
No, I want to know who you met.
No, I just met William Regal, the wrestler, and he was a fucking cool dude.
Oh yeah.
It was.
How bad is he?
Well,
let's read William Regal's Wikipedia page.
I strongly against that. There was at times he has had like serious drug and alcohol problems, and so I've never looked into that part of his life, but I suspect there's probably bad things. But when I met him, he was an absolute legend. So,
well, here's a sentence from his Wikipedia page. Matthews he's called, participated in a 2001 episode of The Weakest Link, winning 2 of the first 3 rounds and eventually finishing 3rd.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
You were a bit worried for a minute.
No, I wasn't at all.
You just didn't want us to read his Wikipedia page.
I just don't want us to sit here and read anyone's Wikipedia page.
Why?
The
more you learn.
God.
Do you not find Wikipedia interesting?
Let's read Hitler's Wikipedia page. That'll go down well. Let's learn about the most evil man in history.
So here's a question: do you think Hitler was the most evil man in history?
You can't see my face, but you can imagine what expression is being pulled.
Yes.
One of great angst.
So yes, Charlie, is the question. Is the answer to the question then? Yeah.
Bruv, I don't think we need to deeps the prickish nature.
It's one of those days. This is back to this is pure beginnings of the podcast. Louis playing a game in the background. We're chatting about whether Hitler was actually good.
You can only half prove that.
Charlie's playing a game in the background.
I've got XCOM open. I can't be asked to play it.
Oof.
I wanted to play it earlier, and my brain just went, you haven't got the brain capacity to deal with it.
That's fair.
You know, like when you play a game, like some games, right? Like I've had this a couple of times recently, where I've really, really deeply wanted to play a game, and my brain just went, you know what? You're too tired, and it's something I experience now, and I haven't for I just didn't used to experience this, I guess. But like, for example, like Mass Effect, right? I was replaying the Mass Effect trilogy when it came out, and I'm right at the end of Mass Effect 2, like right before the final mission.
Yeah.
And every time I go to do it, I'm just like, I just don't know. I'm just not in the place of mind to even begin to attempt to try and play Mass Effect 2, like that mission in Mass Effect 2 now.
Yeah.
And it just keeps happening to me of late, and it's annoying me because like I've got Ratchet and Clank, which I didn't finish. I've got the Mass Effect ones, which I didn't finish.
Did you not finish Ratchet and Clank?
2, which I didn't finish. Like I haven't finished a game in months.
Damn.
And it's getting to me because like and I keep thinking to myself, I'll go back and play that, and I just don't have the brain to do it, you know.
I kind of, I don't know whether it's like, sometimes I just get bored of a game, you know. Sometimes I'm playing a game and I'm like, I've played enough of this game now. Don't fancy playing it anymore.
I mean, that's fair. That happens with me as well. But I guess the difference between that and this is that I just don't have the. It's not even that I'm bored.
You don't have the energy to do it. You're like, I don't.
Yeah, like Psychonauts 2,
it.
for example. Like I was loving the beginning of that game. I was super into it, and then I just like my brain went, nah, you can't be arsed now. Same with Mass Effect 2. Obviously, we both love Mass Effect.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
very
yeah.
excited to finally, for the first time, play through Mass Effect 3 properly
Sure.
and everything. And then my brain just went, nah, but you CBA.
I get you. I don't know. I've never had that before. I've never had that in a game before, really. Not that it's more. I don't know whether it's a CBA. Like, it's not. I don't think it's the same thing. Like, there are definitely times where I've played games and I've just gone, I'm not playing any more of this, or I don't want to play. I don't want to play any more of this. But I never have like had games where I'm just like, I'm too tired to play a game today. Like, honestly, even to the point where I'm like, I guess I'll just fall asleep with the game on in the background. I've done that before, like plenty of times.
I think, and do you know what I think part of it is? Like, I started. I think it's partly to do with like the ADHD and stuff like that.
Oh sure.
But I genuinely like PES was like such a big thing where like when I couldn't be asked to do anything, I would just put on PES and would just sort of like mindlessly play it, but without thinking about it. And entire days would just go past and just disappear into the distance. Like I wouldn't even begin to even consider PES, like anything but the time. Like I would just look at the time. I'd be like, oh well, we're about 8 hours to where we previously were, sort of thing. And I think it was just a case of like I was too tired to even begin to think about anything else.
Sure, I get you.
And it keeps happening. Like I want to sit down and play like Psychonauts, for example, but like I feel like I need to dedicate myself to it more, and yet I just don't have the brain capacity to even begin to try.
I get you. Yeah,
It's
that's
pissing me
rough.
Because Psychonauts.
I mean, I know you like Psychonauts a lot, to be fair.
I do like Psychonauts a lot.
And it's interesting. I'm not sure. Never really had that issue, I'm afraid.
Well, you're lucky.
I am lucky. I know that much for sure. How are you finding Psychonauts? Have you just not had enough time for it, or?
I've played it at one time we spoke about, and that's it. I played the intro, the tutorial mission, which is like the intro mission.
Sure.
It's not really a tutorial, it's just tutorialized, I guess. But I played the first mission. I went around the hub world kind of thing, what I assume will become the hub world kind of thing. And then that's it. I haven't touched it since. I was loving it, but I just, yeah. I don't know.
That's interesting. I've got so many stuff on my desktop that I don't. I mean, to be fair, I need to download Streets of Rage, which we're playing tomorrow, I think, Charlie.
I need to download that as well. Thank you for reminding me. I need to download that as well.
But I've got so many things on my desktop that I either haven't played or because I keep games downloaded, I guess. So like I've still got 12 minutes on. I haven't even touched 12 minutes. But then I think I was kind of put off touching 12 minutes after hearing all of the shit.
Which is what happened to me with Mass Effect 3 originally back in the day.
Sure. Yeah, I guess
like
so.
I really wanted to play Mass Effect 3, and then the Mass Effect 3 incident happened, and we're now in 2021, and I haven't played Mass Effect 3 yet.
True. Although I've played most of the stuff on there, like, or I was planning to play it at some point. Like, the only things on my desktop I haven't played that I was planning to play. Oh, to be fair, there are a few. I wanted to play Bug Fables. I didn't get around playing Bug Fables. Donut County, still not played. One of the people who's in our chat recommended Nunderpants recommended East Shade to me, and I downloaded that. Still haven't played it. What else have I got on here? Morrowind. I only played like an hour of, and I still haven't touched it since then. I've got Halo the Master Chief Collection on there that we were going to stream one week, and I've never not touched it. Chris Tales I downloaded. I haven't touched it. Omno. I don't even know what Omno is, but that's on my desktop. No clue.
Well, a lot of it's because what do you call it exists, right?
Game Pass,
yeah. So you can have that stuff, like, but I just don't download, and because I have faster internet, I just don't download things until I need them. True. So
I always just when I see something on Game Pass, I'm just sort of like, oh, this looks interesting. I'll download it.
Yeah. Whereas I never do it.
Or like whatever, because like Chris Tales, I believe, is a JRPG that people were talking about for a little while when it came out, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a go. But I still haven't done that yet. Then Final Fantasy 13 came out. I was playing that. Downloaded that immediately. Started playing that. So I'm not. It's not that I can't. It's not that I'm tired. Like it's not like I haven't started playing any of these games because I'm like I don't want to play a game. I've not started these games just because I'm clearly not interested or not as interested as I thought I would be. Like I even though we had a review for Blake the visual novel that is up on our YouTube channel right now. You can go check it out. Sometimes Video Games. YouTube.com/sometimes video games. It took me like 3 or 4 days to actually start that up because I just didn't feel like playing it. Even though I was like, I need to do this. I need to do a review on this. I need to actually play this game. And luckily, it was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. But I was just like, I just don't want to play it.
I think I put off more games than I actually even play. To be honest, at this stage in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have a much bigger library of games than games I have actually played.
Oh. Really?
A lot of the time I'm like, oh, this looks nice. I might play that, and then just don't.
I think I've played everything. I think every time I've bought a game, I've always played the game. Apart from recently when I bought Parappa the Rapper 2, but it's only because I don't have a PS2, and I probably would have played it through. Regardless, if I had a PS2, I'd play it through. I bought it specifically for the idea that it was like a collector's thing. It was half the price that it's normally sold for online. I was like, screw it, I'll buy it because it's half the price the game is normally online. It's a bargain at that point. But I typically do play. Do you typically play everything that you buy, Charlie?
No, I have the intention to, but it just doesn't happen. It does nowadays.
I guess
a lot more so than
so.
I used
Steam's
to.
a thing. Steam's a thing.
When I was like, especially when I was an accountant and I had disposable income, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. But like over the last like 2-3 years, I've like really focused and intend to just buy just play what I buy.
Sure.
There's still some notable exceptions, but most of the time I'm pretty good at it now. I'm pretty good. There's still a couple that I need to get around to, but yeah, back in the day it was back in the day it was bad when I had money. Oh my god.
I don't think I was ever like that. I think I was always like, even when I had money, even when I was in jobs and stuff like that, I was just like, I'll buy this game because I want to play this game. But I think Steam's a big thing with that. I think Steam's like, you just buy shit because it's on sale.
Yeah.
You just buy this thing's £1. I'll buy it. It's on sale.
Yeah, my stance. I mean, I've spoken about this before, but like my stance tends to be now, like unless it's something I'm buying day one, which is very, very, very rare. I tend to only buy games when they're either 75% off or under £5.
Okay.
Just because money reasons, it just makes sense, and then most of the time I'll play that. But there are some cases of like if something is on sale for 75% off or is under £5 from sale, and I see it, I'm like, wow, it's never going to get better than this price right now.
Yeah.
So I'll play it then. But there's certain things like for example, Ghost of Tsushima, where like I was pretty up in general on Ghost of Tsushima. I was like, this looks like something I'll probably be into, but I still haven't played that because of the price. If that price ever hits, then sure. Until that point.
When you didn't buy it, you were just like, I will buy it at some point, I guess.
Yeah, there's just no rush. And that's the thing I've realized is there's just no rush. Like, games aren't going anywhere,
Unless you're in like, and in sort of, I don't mean our scenario, but like our scenario. You mean, where you've got to be up to date on the games that are coming out because, that's kind of what it is. And like even in our scenario, we're not there yet. Although I think that would ideally we'd be at a point where we'd be like, okay, the new Sonic game's come out. Who's playing it? Like ideally we'd be there, but like we're not. Even then, like I feel like we wouldn't even like. I think it would be a lot for us to be like every week. Okay, this new game's come out. We all need to play it. Or
games
one
are
of
really
us is
expensive.
They are expensive. Yeah,
prohibitively so. To be honest, like as much as it's like
to the point where I'd be like, even if we were at peak, like for example at peak, I would expect the three of us to play one game a month, and I wouldn't expect us to do much more than that. And they don't have to be AAA games.
You just have to pick and choose what's interesting as well. I think because I think that's the difference. Like if you're someone who covers every single game, whether that be a website in an IGN mold or a YouTuber or whatever, Twitch streamer who like covers every game, then that's a different story. But unless you're doing that, I don't think it behooves one to really do that at all.
Well, no,
I
if
think
you're on your own, like for example, like I mean, I know it's difficult for me to say this because like I do it with music.
Sure.
You know, and I do that out of a love for music, and I would do it out of a love for games if I could afford to go out and buy a game every week, probably. Depending, and I would play through that game. I would literally just be like, right, I'm going to cut off my entire back catalogue. I don't even really have a back catalogue, to be honest. I don't have a bunch of games where I'm like, I'm meaning to get around to that game. I just have games that I have played and games I probably won't. I at this point, there's nothing I'm like, I need to get through this. So like, I could just at this point go, I have money, fuck it. I'm going to buy a new game every week and I'm going to play that game. And probably not to completion because it depends. But I could potentially, you know, I could potentially be in that realm at some point because I'm there with music, you know, and you know I'm there with music because I listen to every album that comes out not every album that comes out every week, but I listen to a good amount of albums that come out every week, and I know that's free.
But it's also the barrier of entry is really small comparatively.
Yeah, the barrier of entry is really small. Like it's free. The barrier of entry is free. It's just the time that you have, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But even then, you still pick and choose.
I have picked and choosed. Well, no, not well. I was going to listen to Donda. I just wasn't going to listen to it on the day of release because it wasn't a Friday, and Friday is just the day I do that shit. So like,
no, yeah, but you know what I mean. You do pick. It's not like you'll like aimlessly listen to everything. You will still make sort of some selections on what you do.
I will go like, well, so for example, I was at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 albums that I wanted to listen to on Friday. I've listened to 2 of them, which was Donda and the fucking Imagine Dragons. To be fair, I'm only picking the big ones as well. Like I'm listening to everything, but if it's big and I don't like the artist, I will also still typically listen to it. So
Donda.
Well, Kanye and Imagine Dragons. I listened to the Imagine Dragons album yesterday as well.
Yeah.
I've not listened to the new Kanye album.
How much do you like Kanye? How much do you like Kanye?
Not a lot.
This will not change your mind.
Wait. This is what I'll say. Louis, in your head, what I want you to do right now is imagine a Kanye West album in 2021. Right? Imagine what you think that would sound like, given everything you feel and know about Kanye West. You are correct. We move on. That is very much the vibe of the entire situation.
It's a bit of a mess.
But it's the same. But you have to pick and select in the same way that even the biggest. No one does everything.
Oh yeah.
No
of course.
entity, no person does everything. Even the very, very biggest websites, IGN, do not cover every game.
No, of course not. No.
You know.
And there won't be. And like I said, I won't. I'm not listening to every album. Like for example, if I wanted to listen to every album that came out on the 3rd of September, I don't. But I'm missing a load. I'm missing a load of albums that are just on this list that I do not care about or couldn't find. There's a Manic Street Preachers album apparently that came out. I couldn't find it. But then there's like the Wild Hearts as well, and I'm like, I don't think I care about the Wild Hearts enough to be interested. I've got the Lady Gaga Chromatica remixes on there. I haven't listened to them yet, but you know that's just solely not because I'm a massive fan of Lady Gaga, but because like she's big enough, you know. Like so for next week, let's look for next week. I'm looking at next week now, and like I can immediately pick out who I would potentially want to listen to and who I wouldn't want to listen to, and like who would I want to listen to out of next week's albums. Well, James Blake. I know that James Blake's album's been delayed since then, but James Blake was on this list. And then the rest, I'm kind of like, you know what? I don't really care. There's a Metallica covers album that I might listen to. I know Rina Sawayama's got a song on that. But like, I don't care. But then out of the rest of them, I'm going to probably listen to the Andrew WK record because it's Andrew WK. Probably going to listen to the Diana Ross record because it's Diana Ross, which is an interesting thing to say in 2021.
Quick question on the Metallica album. Is it various artists covering Metallica songs, or is it Metallica covering songs of other artists?
I think the Metallica Blacklist is a bunch of other artists covering Metallica songs.
Okay, because that sounds more interesting than the other option.
Because I've just clicked on this, but there's Nothing Else Matters by Miley Cyrus featuring Watt, Elton John, Yo-Yo Ma, Robert Trujillo, Chad Smith. What?
Well, it's a Queen song. Nothing really matters.
Not that one. It's Nothing Else
Anyone
Matters
can see.
by Miley Cyrus featuring Elton John and Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah, why not, innit?
I'm so confused that exists.
Why not, innit?
I guess it's a mad one. Do you not think it's a mad one?
The world is wild. I have nothing can surprise me anymore.
So the track listing. Oh my god, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Enter Sandmans. Fuck me. There's 6 Enter Sandmans. I'm not gonna go through the whole track list. You got Alessia Cara in the Warning, which is the one that was on the Marvel XCOM thing.
Crash, yeah.
Rina Sawayama's version of the same song, which is actually good. Weezer's version of the same song, which you know. Royal Blood, Sad But True. Biffy Clyro, Holier Than Thou. Pup, Holier Than Thou. Corey Taylor, Holier Than Thou. Cage of the Elephant is on there. J Balvin, Wherever I Roam. J Balvin? Chase and Status doing one. That's going to be interesting. The Who, that's going to be good. Not The Who, but The Who was in the throat singing band from wherever it is they're from.
I don't know.
Do you not know the Who? They're like a metal band, but they throat
If it's not The Who, then I don't know The Who.
Sure,
you know
fair. The Miley Cyrus.
Don't know the Who, then I don't know the Who.
Thing.
Exactly.
Darius Rucker. Idols. Imelda May, that could be interesting. Kamasi Washington. Oh. You know, there's some interesting shit on there. I'm actually watching. There's like 53 tracks, though, let's be fair.
53. Who is it? Kanye West. That was a Donda joke for you all there. You're welcome.
I mean, Donda is like, it's 2 hours long.
It's 27 tracks.
It's a lot, isn't it? Fuck. I'll probably listen to this, mostly because I'm now incredibly interested in hearing what Miley Cyrus, Elton John, and Yo-Yo Ma have to do about Nothing Else Matters.
Less interesting than you think it will be.
Maybe it is. Although the Kamasi Washington,
although Miley has it in her occasionally.
The Kamasi Washington, well, no, Kamasi Washington's good.
I mean, I don't disagree.
Chase and Status, a Chase and Status Metallica cover could be cool.
Yeah, but the thing is, you say the artist, and I'm like, yeah, I don't disagree, and then you say Metallica cover, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure.
I mean,
and it's not that I don't like Metallica. Before you ask, I just can't be arsed. It's like a sequel or a remake. It's like I just can't be arsed. It's like I listened to the Rena one, right? With shout out the topic. I was listening to the Rena one, right, and like I really like Rena, and
Rena's
I really
great.
like that song, and the cover of it, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I don't care though. I'll never listen to it.
I would rather listen to any of Rena's other stuff.
And I'd rather listen to the original with Sandman. And that's not even to say like I think there's a lot to be said about how good that Rena's cover of it is, and like actually I think you can make an argument that it's potentially even better than the original.
Oh,
I
really?
wouldn't listen to it over the original.
Really?
I'd only listen. There's just too much effort. Can't be asked. It's sequels, isn't it? It's the Dead Space remake. It's the new Saints
You
Row
and sequels is a real thing.
It's just long. Just come up with something new, bro. I can't be asked. Even ABBA are releasing new music. And ABBA haven't released a new album in 40 years, and even they've come back and they're not just gone, here's a remake of our old songs. They're actually doing new ones now. We can have a discussion about how similar it is to their old songs, because
they are pretty similar.
But at the same time, at least they're releasing something new. Like, come on, guys.
Even Steps has an album out next week.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And I hate it. However, I assume it's also almost all covers, because that's how Steps does things, right?
That's just how the world does things.
All I know is they did Tragedy, and I much prefer the Foo Fighters version of Tragedy than the...
Steps Tragedy is a banger.
No. Foo Fighters Tragedy's a banger. I mean, Tragedy's a banger, but I hate Steps, so it's fine. I just can't stand them. Cannot stand them.
Just wrong, ain't you?
Nah, Steps are the worst. I'm sure I've said this before, but like when I was a child, I declared the band Steps to be my arch enemy.
Yeah.
Like,
how's that war being waged?
It's been great. I've been winning so far.
Well,
because
I'm not sure. I'm bad to say, Adam. I'm not sure you have been winning.
It's just true. It's true.
Well, how relevant were they when he was a child when he declared it, and how relevant are steps now?
I mean, this is
That's
this
the
is
question
yeah.
I would
This is
ask.
the
I think Adam's won.
I
think
would
Adam's
would
won.
say that as an
But
individual.
the question is, I don't think I'm not. Yeah, but Adam, you yourself are not more relevant than.
I would no, but I'm definitely more relevant than I was when I was a child.
Exactly. If you're talking about graphs of
If it's
relevancy,
it's talking about graphs of relevancy. My relevancy
one's
has
gone
grown
one way and one's gone the
an
other.
awful lot, and their relevancy
Exactly.
has diminished an awful lot.
Exactly. Strongly agree.
Yeah. Now, am I more famous than Steps? No, I never said I was.
I feel like you said you were.
Am I
But on a
more
graph
relevant? I'm not more relevant either. No, but
But
have
your
my
graph-
relevancy
your-
grown more than theirs has? Yes.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. His Steps' relevancy has somewhat declined.
I would say it's declined an awful lot, and that them releasing a Part 2 album in 2021 is almost a surprise.
I strongly agree.
Yeah,
I think
well,
one thing we can all take away from this podcast is Steps get got.
I want to bring him back, man. No, just to spite Adam.
I just there was something when I was a child. There was just something about the band Steps I absolutely hated, like with a passion, like a burning passion of I hate everything they do, and like even now I'm just like I don't like them. No.
Dun, dun, dun,
But
dun,
that's the Bee
dun,
Gees. That's not Steps, and the Bee Gees are cool.
dun, dun, dun. I don't know if you could say the Bee Gees are cool.
Do you not think the Bee Gees are cool? The Bee
I
Gees.
like the Bee Gees. I don't know whether I would declare them cool.
Are the Bee Gees the
I
most
like 'em.
underrated band? Oh.
No. Is the answer to that question.
Who do you think is the most underrated band then?
Not the Bee Gees.
Really? Not the Bee Gees?
Not the band who have more number ones than I have dinners in a week.
Are you saying you're the most underrated band?
Well, does anyone rate me? No. Well, by definition,
there we
that.
go. There we go. Maybe you are the most underrated band. Are you a band?
Are you a band?
Wow.
I would say we're a band. We're not a band of musicians. We could be a band though.
Band of merry fellows.
Exactly, we could be a band of merry fellows. They have won some Grammys though.
We're a band of misfits.
How Deep Is Your Love was the first award that they got. How deep is your love? Oh, it's so good, that song.
Great song.
Oh, it's so the bit. See, right, you may take me apart for not liking ABBA or whatever, but like the Bee Gees, man, the Bee Gees.
Yeah, the Bee Gees are great. As at ABBA, you can like both, and
I mean,
you'd be correct.
you
to
can like both, yes, of course.
and you'd be correct to like both.
I just I
It's
don't
your
know.
strong dislike of ABBA that's the issue here, not
Just
the Bee Gees, not your like of the Bee
I
Gees.
feel like you don't like the Bee Gees enough.
I feel like you're wrong, sir. I feel like I like the Bee Gees an adequate amount.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When
An
you
acceptable level of liking for the Bee Gees.
see, this is how I will judge this.
Despite looking
When did you
more
when
and
you
more
heard
like them as I grew up.
I mean, we're all I think the three of us are all kind of in that avenue, you know.
Sure.
When you heard that the Foo Fighters were doing a Bee Gees cover album, what was your initial thought?
Nice.
Okay,
I probably won't listen to it, but nice.
I'll tell you should listen to the first 5 songs
I'm pretty certain I should. I just can't be arsed.
because the first 5 songs are the Bee Gees covers, and every other song is just a Foo Fighters song, which is it's not worth listening to.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like the Bee Gees bits are good. In fact, I think
was
I've
like,
got
that sounds-
Tragedy
I
on
was
my
like, That sounds like something Dave Grohl would spend his time doing, yes.
Or just I mean, they're called the DGs.
There you go.
I mean, to be fair, like Dave Grohl, well, the rest of the Foo Fighters have done some weird publicity stunts in the past.
Have they? Like,
Well, do you remember when they went up to that like Westboro Baptist Church protest,
I saw this the other day, actually. Yeah.
and they decided to like hold like play it blast really loudly out of this big vehicle that they were traveling in. Rick Astley is never going to give you up.
Yeah, nice.
Like just non-stop.
Again, it sounds like something Dave Grohl would do.
He has the time
he
and the
made
money
his
to
money,
do this shit.
And
yeah.
then he was like, I'm just going to live my life. And I respect that.
I do actually. He's fair. Like so I see a lot of stuff in the media about how Foo Fighters are kind of like an old person band, and I agree, but also like I don't think any of them care. I also think Dave Grohl would agree.
Yeah,
I think Dave Grohl would be like, "Yeah, we are, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that."
Yeah,
and I'm like, I agree.
Your dad. I bet people's dads listen to you.
People's dads do. They are dad. So the problem is, you're correct, because when I was young, when I was a teenager, the Foo Fighters were a big deal, and a lot of people who are my age have children,
are now dads.
and they still listen to the songs they used to listen to when they were 15, 16, which was Foo Fighters. So yes, a lot of Foo Fighters fans are dads. Foo Fighters is a dad rock band.
Foo Fighters are in fact listened to by dads.
They are. I imagine primarily Foo Fighters are listened to by dads. I imagine that's now their primary audience. Dads. Same with bands like Biffy Clyro. I imagine Biffy Clyro's primary audience right now are dads. Which may hurt them to say. I would have said Coldplay as well, but Coldplay, I think Coldplay were too boring when they were.
Yeah, I feel like.
Do you know what? Are Coldplay the most underrated band? I'm putting that one out there. Maybe.
I think they get rated pretty highly though. I think Coldplay get really overrated. I think they got really overrated in some places. Like, no, I think I know what you'd say. Are they underrated? Because like people, like, it's cool to rip on them. It's cool to go, oh, fucking Coldplay, they're shit, aren't they? But like, they still get like shitloads of number ones, and people still go like they're the best band of all time, or Chris Martin's an incredible singer. Like, you know, like
that's fair.
I understand where you're coming from in that they're like, are they underrated because people say they're shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. When you compare them to what, like Queens of the Stone Age, I don't know. I think Queens of the Stone Age are pretty underrated, you know.
I think Queens of the Stone Age are amazing, bro.
They're a really good band. People don't talk about them.
They don't. I agree.
Which is weird.
I don't know how. I don't know in the.
I feel like in the era in which Queens of the Stone Age, existed for the most part, was kind of dwarfed by other, but they were just kind of dwarfed
people like
by
Foo
other
Fighters,
bands.
yeah.
like Foo Fighters.
Despite having the lead singer on drums for one of like half their album or whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure Dave Grohl just filled. Like, you know what I mean?
He was
just filled for them.
He just filled in because they didn't have a drummer at the time, I think. Yeah. I think there are loads of bands.
He still drummed on some of their biggest songs. To be fair.
Yeah, like No One Knows is like their biggest song, and Dave Grohl drummed on that.
I still think he's a better drummer than he's a singer, personally.
He's not a great. Let's be fair. He's not a great singer. He's a great frontman, but he's not a great singer. You know?
Yeah. Who did the Pretender? Is that Foo Fighters?
Yeah, Foo Fighters. Yeah, that's a sick song.
That's a great.
That is a great song.
He kills it on that song.
Absolutely, he kills on that song. He yeah, for sure. And he's surprisingly good at the ABBA covers. To be ABBA fucking Bee Gees covers. To be fair, like he gets high. He gets higher than I thought he could get. You know, I didn't think that Dave Grohl could particularly.
Does he get as high? Can he get as high as Barry Gibb?
I don't think he can get that high.
So you're saying that he can't sing as high pitched as Barry Gibb?
No. However, I was surprised that he could get as high as he could. Because I didn't.
Do you not find it a bit weird that someone from the Bee Gees was just called Barry?
No. Why is that weird?
It just sounds like a proper. It just sounds like a proper pub goer name, doesn't it?
Maybe he was. Maybe Barry proper loved it down the pub.
All right, Barry. How's your Brenda doing?
The parents are from Manchester. They're from hold on. So let's look at the Bee Gees. I think their parents were from. Born on the Isle of Man to English parents, the Gibb brothers lived in Chorlton, Manchester, until the late 50s. Like, it's just fair. They were born on the Isle of Man. They were born to pub people, innit? You know, they were like. Barry's one of them. He's born on the Isle of Man.
Barry is a pub person.
He is a pub boy. His dad's called Hugh Gibb, which is a great name.
Hugh Gibb. I love Hugh Gibb.
Hugh Gibb is a great name. Is Hugh Gibb from Manchester? Yeah, Hugh Gibb's from Chorlton, Manchester. So essentially the Bee Gees are like proper mank.
But man, they are like Oasis.
They're like Oasis. Do you know what? I was going to say Oasis are like the Bee Gees of the 90s, but they're not. They're nowhere near.
I feel like Oasis might be one of the worst, like, massive bands that I've ever listened to.
I think they're probably one of the most overrated bands.
I kind of agree.
What do you think?
Like,
I mean,
my
I know
issue with
Charlie.
Oasis is that for the most part, every song kind of sounds identical.
I'm not a fan. I know I'm not a fan. I know Charlie's also
And
not a big fan.
I don't get why Liam's like, I'm going to sing using my nose.
He does a bit, doesn't he? He's
Yeah,
a
he
bit.
does. He really does.
He's a bit. I will sing using my nose. I know.
Oasis. Now you want to talk about overrated?
Yeah.
I'll put Oasis and Noel Gallagher in that conversation any day.
You think that? Do you think they're the most overrated band?
I think Noel Gallagher's the most overrated. Like Liam
Noel
Gallagher's
Gallagher
better
thinks
than
he's
Noel
fucking
Gallagher.
Jesus. Noel Gallagher thinks he's Jesus.
It's long, innit?
Noel Gallagher. Just to set this right, Noel Gallagher's the guy with the guitar, right? Not the.
Every time I hear like Noel Gallagher like singing Oasis songs, I'm like, yeah, I see why they had Liam frontmanning for that band. I'm gonna be real with you.
Liam can't sing. Noel can sing better than Liam. However,
I do not think so. I think Noel is worse.
You think
And I think they're both. And I think they're both not great.
I think they're both not great.
I think Liam's a better. Noel's a better songwriter, but Liam is better overall. Like Noel's big hits are obviously good. Like Liam doesn't have big hits, but he's more consistent. Yeah, no, but but he wrote the big ones for Oasis, and that's fair enough.
Wonderwall,
I'm
right.
just giving him the credit before I tear him to shreds and say
Wonderwall was.
Wonderwall is a good song, right?
Sure.
Good. Congrats. We could all have fun listening to Wonderwall. Good times, right? But after that, like Liam is more consistent, and even he's not good, but he's more consistent. Nothing Noel has done since Oasis has been anywhere near good.
I agree. I don't like either of them, and I would say it's hard to say I prefer Blur because I do prefer Blur, but I also think Blur are quite overrated as well.
Yeah, but at least Blur are more interesting.
They're more interesting, but like they've had less. They're also not very consistent as a band. I don't think.
Yeah.
Like their singles are fucking ridiculous, but like as soon as you get on an album with Blur, you're just like, oh, I don't want to listen to this shit.
Yeah.
Where's Part? Give me more Part Life. Part Life.
I love that one. Give me more Part Life.
Part Life again. It's Part Life 2, but with more of that one man who is doing the talking bit.
I can't remember his name. The actor.
He is an actor. Yeah, I don't remember his name either. If I just put Part Life in Google,
He was in EastEnders. The point
He
is,
was, yeah.
right? The point is that I think you can meet your heroes, and it's not too bad.
Phil Daniels.
That was the one. It's just sequels are just dead, bruv. And so for example, right, in Videogames recently,
Okay.
the Dead Space one, we'll see how it ends up playing out, but it does seem to be a beat for beat remake. Well, not beat for beat, but at least
It's a remake.
like I watched the stream they did this week with what they called very, very, very early footage or whatever it is, and they tried to make out this was fun. They were like, "Oh, we at EA don't tend to do this, but we're going to show you this really, really." And I'm like, "Are you sure? You showed us a game once which was just polygons, and then it disappeared into the ether and never came back. I don't think you can claim EA never do this because you definitely do." Anyway, so I watched their stream of it, and they were talking about how they're trying to remake exactly the Ishimura, which is the ship you go around in the original Dead Space, right? So that seems like it's going to be a proper remake. I also watched this week the gameplay stuff that Saints Row put out for the new Saints Row.
Oh, sure, yeah. People are getting
because so the announcement of it wasn't met with as much acclaim as maybe they would hope, I guess is the way I would put it. Like there certainly wasn't outright negativity, but it definitely wasn't a hugely positive reception. And that's because it looked like I said on the stream when we did it, it didn't feel like it popped like the original Saints Row did. And they've spoken about, like, the developers were talking about how they're trying to make characters and stuff that would fit into today and not just making Saints Row from back then, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, you're still kind of like, that's at least more interesting to me because you're kind of doing something else, but at the same time, you're still making another Saints Row as opposed to something completely new. But then again, I guess they tried that with Agents of Mayhem and it failed very badly. So I don't know.
True.
Maybe I'm wrong, but sequels in general are just dead. Like, I just can't be arsed.
I think the thing is, like, I know you personally don't like sequels for, whatever reason, but, like, a lot of people really do like sequels.
Yeah, I hate to say, I kind of find it hard to, like, hear you discuss sequels in any way, Charlie, because your stance is just that I have a disposition towards sequels, no matter in what light they're put in. So it's like, how do we have a discussion with that?
No, because there's good sequels. It's just, in general, I feel like you could take that time and spend it on making something new that I'd be more interested in.
Well, yeah, that's the point, though, isn't it? The point is that the point isn't that you think all sequels are bad, but it's that you're initially like, I would rather this not be a sequel.
I love The Last of Us 1. It is one of my favorite games. I really, really like The Last of Us 2. It's not as good as Last of Us 1, but I do really, really like The Last of Us 2. I would rather Naughty Dog have made something new than The Last of Us 2. Yeah. And that's not because that game isn't as good as Last of Us 1 or whatever, but I just would rather...
you'd just rather they did something new,
Yeah, like, I really, really like XCOM 2. You know? I really, really like XCOM 1. I really, really like XCOM 2. I would have preferred they did something different than XCOM 2. Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate XCOM 2 just as much as I appreciate Chimera Squad. And, like, it's the same with music. Like, when bands tend to step out of their shell and do something that sounds different from their previous sound, or do something I appreciate that way than I do when a band does the same thing again. And I'm like, okay.
Well, to be fair, I think the difference with music and albums, in terms of stuff is the lack of a narrative, isn't it? So, like, when you're like The Last of Us Part 2, you can go, okay, well, it's tied to the previous game in whatever way. You can't go like fucking Donda is the sequel to Jesus is King.
Sure.
Because it just doesn't make sense. It's whatever. But like, even if there's similar sounds between them, I'm not saying there are because I'm just using it as a reference because it's just what's popped up. But like, even if there are similar sounds between like this Kanye album and the last Kanye album, regardless of what happens, you don't go, well, this is the sequel to Kanye's last album. Whereas like, even if The Last of Us 2 had completely changed its combat and was now XCOM, as an example, it would still be The Last of Us 2, and you would still be like, oh, it's The Last of Us. We don't need The Last of Us 2.
And I think remakes are like the ultimate version of this.
I mean, yeah, because you're just treading the exact same ground again.
And you're probably making more money for it. Like, ultimately, I feel like remakes are like the ultimate version of this, like, sort of. And the thing is, it's not like I don't understand why they exist, because obviously they're a much, much more significantly safer bet. And say, for example, with Dead Space, where they're remaking the ship from Dead Space 1 as accurately as they can, you're probably saving money again because you don't have to spend time and energy redesigning an entire ship, making something new. You already have the sort of
what it's going to look like.
Something that exists.
Yeah.
You know what the curves are going to be. You know how the corridors are going to be. All of that stuff. It saves money and time. And in that sense, if you're spending less money and time on it, you can make more money elsewhere. I fully understand why they exist. I just find it so like
creatively bankrupt.
I don't even want to say creatively bankrupt, but that was my initial instinct. But I feel like I'm potentially being unfair by saying it. Is to say that
because I don't think remakes they do a bit. Not that I don't enjoy the odd remake here and there, or even would like the odd remake or remaster. I think is maybe what I prefer. Remasters or ports, just in general, because I don't feel like graphical upgrades are enough of a reason to resell a game. I think you just resell that game and you just go, oh, here's the game as it was originally, and I've ported it over to PS5. I think I would be much happier to just have ports of old games, but that's neither here nor there. I think that there's definitely more creativity in launching a sequel than there is in launching a remake. I think Last of Us 2 is more creative.
And I think
than
what's interesting for me recently is with like Psychonauts 2, for example, has made me think about it more, because that's a game that was like 16 years old.
Yeah.
And they have done a huge amount of new stuff in the meantime. And so I feel less... I don't know how I would word this, but I want to, like, again, my initial words is less negative, but I don't think negative is the word. But like, I feel like I'm like, okay, cool. I'd be up to seeing what Psychonauts 2 is.
Like,
but like, that's mainly because they have done a crap ton of other things, and it also doesn't feel like like a maybe not Dead Space, but Saints Row, like the Saints Row game. You can make an argument for it having cynical motives.
Yeah.
Compared to Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 1 did not sell super well.
No.
Like, they had to crowdfund to make Psychonauts 2 even a reality at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
You know.
I think the Psychonauts thing is really interesting because, like you say, like, taking an idea that you had 20 years ago that was already made and already done, and then implementing all of the cool stuff that you've learned throughout those last 20 years into a new idea involving the same world as the one you had 20 years ago. I think that's cool. Like, there's no point in that where I'm like, you know what, I don't want that. You know, there's no point where I'm like, with the Psychonauts idea, is that you go, Psychonauts was 15 years ago. We've learned so much in the last 15 years. Let's do Psychonauts again. It's not the first Psychonauts, it's a sequel, so it's a new story, it's new background, new characters, new all that stuff. But we're implementing new ideas, we're implementing new thoughts, we're implementing new design philosophies and stuff that we've learned along the way. And I think that's how like long running franchises are supposed to work, right? They're not supposed to be this Call of Duty releases every year. Call of Duty may be unfair because there's new development, like 3 development teams. Let's take Assassin's Creed, which I don't think is an unfair point. And you can even argue to a point that it backs up the point that I'm trying to make, because they took a gap and learned stuff and made a better game, more interesting game for it. Like when Assassin's Creed was yearly, they were learning literally nothing and were just retreading the exact same ground every year since Assassin's Creed 1 all the way up until the big break of Assassin's Creed. It was like, this is just Assassin's Creed again, but like maybe here's a new mechanic, or the graphics are a little bit nicer, or you know, whatever, even though if it's in a different world, you know, and that's not necessarily what sequels are supposed to be. Sequels aren't supposed to be Assassin's Creed again, but let's Assassin's Creed more this time. It's meant to be like the difference between Psychonauts and Psychonauts 2. It's meant to be like, we've learned so much since we last made this game, and here is the extension of that story that we wanted to tell, only with more stuff added and with more interest, or like with everything we've learned in the background. I think. Yeah,
I can't name many scenarios where I would rather they have made a sequel.
But rather they'd have made a sequel than what?
Anything new.
Just any because
literally anything.
Because just anything new is such a vague, like.
But that's my point.
They could literally be making like mobile games, and you'll be like, "That's fine. It's new. It's
yeah."
It's like saying, I don't want Skyrim 2. I don't want the next Elder Scrolls game to be a massively open RPG. I want it to be Bejeweled. Because that's more interesting than doing the same thing again.
Than the next Skyrim, but that's more just, you know, whatever.
That's just a personal thing. But like, I think that's insane. Do you not think that's slightly crazy? Like, you go, I don't want them to do the thing that they're good at. I want them to just go off and do something else. Doesn't matter what.
There's been a long time between. There's been a long time between. Skyrim.
I mean, not necessarily Skyrim. I don't mean necessarily Skyrim.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm just saying in that specific.
It's just an example that I saw on my desktop.
I don't think that is insane. I think it's insane that like we put someone in like a specific position and you go, you're good at that, do that forever. And it's like, well, okay, but at the same time, it's like I would rather like if Todd Howard, for example, to use this to extend this,
decided to not lie about something.
If Todd Howard was like, oh, I have an idea for a Bejeweled game.
Well,
like,
if he has an idea for no, that's fair. Yeah, like, no, if he has an idea for a Bejeweled game, make the Bejeweled game. But if he has an idea for Skyrim 2, make Skyrim 2. I agree that he shouldn't be like pigeonholed into making one thing for his entire life, but like if his idea just so is that I want to make this kind of game, then you know what's wrong with him making that kind of game, even if it is like Skyrim 2?
Nothing is wrong, but it just means I'm significantly less interested in it
because you feel like the ground's already been explored.
Probably.
Despite the fact that they may have they may have learned a lot in those periods, because like I mean,
so
again,
like Last of Us 2 is interesting, right? Because in between Last of Us 1 and 2, so before Last of Us 1, Naughty Dog were making Uncharted games, and although they had implemented stealth to an extent in those games, it certainly was janky and didn't quite nail it. But they were trying it, whatever. But then in between Last of Us 1 and Last of Us 2, you have Uncharted 4, which takes Uncharted which is very different to Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. In terms of gameplay, because they learned a lot from Last of Us 1 and they implemented that into Uncharted 4.
Which would make Uncharted a good sequel. Uncharted 4 even specifically.
Which makes it more interesting. Sure. But then like you get to Uncharted and you get to Last of Us 2, and again you see a lot of what they learned from Uncharted 4 in Last of Us 2. But at the same time, at the same time, I can't help but think like, what if they use that for something else? That's not to say Neil Druckmann or whoever at Naughty Dog wasn't like, I have this idea for Last of Us 2, let's go with it. Because I'm sure that's what happened. Like they tend to have somewhat autonomy, right, when it comes to making stuff at Naughty Dog. But at the same time, I'm just like, imagine if they had did something that was completely new. And it doesn't even have to be completely new gameplay wise or completely new whatever, just something that was new, as opposed to going back to something that was quite safe. And I think and maybe I wouldn't have this strong opinion on it if we weren't in such a time and space where everything is taken the most safe route possible, you know, where everything is a sequel, everything is in a cinematic universe, everything is building to the next thing in the next. Like if we weren't living in that time when Dead Space, Skate, Saints Row, all of these things keep coming back again and again and again, then maybe I wouldn't feel so strongly about it. Sure. Because then I could just go, ooh, there's a new Last of Us, there's a new whatever. Like for example, Saints Row, I was like, I like the Saints Row games. Would I want another one? I would be interested in it. They showed it, I was like, it looks a bit dead, but whatever. Like, if that wasn't such a predictable thing, then maybe I wouldn't be, you know?
True.
But, which is why probably I like Rogue One more than I like any of the other Star Wars films.
Yeah, I think probably similar there. So you mentioned like, there was one thing I wanted to reply out though, is you mentioned the everything needs a cinematic universe, but like, remember that cinematic universe 10 years ago was a risk.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't mean people aren't doing it now and failing.
People are doing it now and failing, but like the idea of 10
years ago, I didn't feel as strongly and negatively about sequels as I do now.
Oh really?
But that's because we're in a stage where it's just ridiculous at this point.
It is kind of sequelitis a bit. I do agree that we kind of are in a world of like, I guess, endless sequels.
Well, it's easy money for most companies to just remake stuff or just make a continuation. Though I mean, I'll still never like see sequels as you know, as sinister as I would, you know, remakes, for instance, because I feel like, you know, there's still new intellectual property, even if it's within the same franchise. There's still.
I agree. I think it's a bit harsh to be like tarring all sequels with the same brush, but I also think I do see Charlie's side of things where I'm like, you know, I get it. You know, we're in a world where
I also don't think I'm tarring them all with the same brush though.
I think you're tarring with them until you play them, and then you go, okay, no, this was still good. Or rather, even then, most of the time,
I feel that your view on sequels might just be just be based off your cynicism for
it's definitely based
the
on
current era of sequels.
It's definitely based on cynicism, but that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's bad that you're cynical about the idea of massive companies going off and just doing sequels. I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's normal. I think we should be. I think we should be.
For example,
It's like, you know what I mean? They're making a fucking Venom 2 of all things. They're making a second Venom film.
Yeah, I forgot that Venom existed. Sorry, go on, Charlie.
no, for example, right at the beginning of the PlayStation 4, Xbox One era, we saw an influx of remasters from the previous generation.
Yeah.
And at first, when that was happening, as opposed to like cross-generational games, we were seeing people like games from 3 to 4 years previous coming out on
The
the
Last
new
of
console,
Us.
Right? Last of Us, although that was pretty late into the thing, but yeah, Last of Us is a good example.
Who made Sleeping Dogs?
Yeah, exactly.
There were a few others that I vaguely remember.
And I think I had a conversation with you at the time, Adam.
Probably,
and we were talking about it, and like at that time, I wasn't so against it because I felt like
I think I was more against it than you were at that time.
You were. You definitely were. I remember that 100%. And my stance then was like, well, it's new hardware. They're using safe bets to learn new hardware, and that should benefit us later down the line. Like when these companies have done doing that and they've done that thing and they've made more money than they would on a less risky project during the time where there is the most risk in making a game for a console because the install base is just smaller. Like we'll have some safety and they'll have some more knowledge and it'll probably benefit us. We'll probably get bigger and better things down the line.
Yeah.
But what the industry seemed to learn from that is actually let's just keep making the same things over and over again.
I mean, I knew
and
it would
that's
be
safe money. And again, I don't disagree that it's not the safe money. I fully get why they do it, but I'm just like, which is probably why I play more indie games now than I did back then as well.
Yeah,
because they're at least doing something new.
They're never usually sequels. Although I do have the thought process that like indies aren't necessarily even doing new things half the time. Like I feel a lot of indies typically just rip from the more popular indies. Like how many Hollow Knights do we know? How many Hollow Knights are there out there now?
I don't know. I can't be honest.
Fucking loads.
I don't know. I can't be honest.
Well, I feel like a lot of indie developers kind of become trendsetters.
You get a big indie game.
Not trendsetters, trend chasers rather.
You get a big indie game. So for example, like Hades. Hades is a massive indie game. How many more games like Hades do we expect will come out? I mean, we hit on it a little bit I don't know whether we hit on it a little bit in the Boyfriend Dungeon interview that I had made. But like Boyfriend Dungeon is basically just a big answer to Hades, and I know Boyfriend Dungeon was being developed before Hades was released, but it's just they're very similar games. Only you can date the sexy people now in Boyfriend Dungeon. And like, how many more games are we going to get that are going to be just like Hades? Probably a lot.
Yeah, no, I feel like there's going to be a lot. Like we're gonna see a lot of Diablo-esque dungeon crawlers now from indie development studios.
I mean, the roguelite. It's roguelites in general, isn't it? It's roguelites in general because Hades is a roguelite, right?
Well, yeah.
So, and how many since Isaac?
Mm-hmm.
How many roguelites have we had since Isaac?
A huge amount.
Like outrage, and Isaac was very influential for its time, and it was massive because it was new and interesting and different. Indies are not.
They're not immune. They're not immune to it.
They're not immune to this. Yeah,
they're not immune to it. I wouldn't say they're as prone to it, but they're not immune to it.
I think it's slightly different in a way.
Isaac was 10 years ago. How many Call of Duty clones have we seen in that time?
True. I think it's slightly different in a way in that like with something like Isaac, we don't have a million more Isaac games. We have more content and stuff like that. Like with Call of Duty, when Call of Duty is the big thing, because Call of Duty comes from the big studio, they go, okay, let's double down and make more of that exact title. Whereas the title itself doesn't hold as well, I guess, in indie games. Whereas the genre holds maybe more, maybe as much. I'm not entirely certain. The genre in AAA games definitely leaks out into other games, though. I remember when Call of Duty was the big thing, and then like we were getting loads of things that were influenced by Call of Duty and shooters and stuff like that. I remember when Skyrim was the big thing and everyone was getting into open world RPGs and stuff, you know, like, and then they were talking like this is inspired by Skyrim. It's the same with like fucking like journalists and stuff saying like this is the Dark Souls of whatever video, you know, like a big genre or a big name comes along and everything is the Dark Souls of fucking whatever.
A game has slight difficulty. Oh, it's the Dark Souls of this genre.
Crash Bandicoot 4 is the Dark Souls of Crash Bandicoot. It's like, okay.
And again, I have to be honest. I don't think Dark Souls is a difficult game. It just has a very steep learning curve.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about Dark Souls is. Like,
I feel like I have worn that argument to death.
I kind of agree, but not because I can't. Not because I mean, I can't play Dark Souls. I'm sure at it, but I also recognize what makes Dark Souls hard, and it's not the difficulty of the game, but it's more the idea of you needing to be good at like interpreting frame data and good at like beat 'em up games and stuff like that and reaction triggers.
No, it's just learning. Like it's
basically
just about learning. It's not something you can just pick up and be
you slowly just get good at Dark Souls. Like it's not a like, and the debate is get good. Like you just slowly get good with practice at Dark Souls. It's not a matter of like with fighting games, for example, where you have to be in a certain mindset. You just slowly get good because it's like fighting the AI in fighting games, not like fighting a human opponent in fighting games. Although I know that there are you can fight human opponents in Dark Souls as well. But everyone's got their own frame data and wind up time and stuff like that. It's I mean it's different. It's different. It's one of those. I don't know. Nah. We actually talked for a lot longer about random shit than I thought we would.
Point is, sequels are trash and they can all get in the bin.
I don't think.
No, I don't agree with that.
They're rubbish, bro. Name one good sequel. You can't. Moving on.
Mass Effect 2. Better than the original. You've been got. Toy Story 2.
Well, now we can have a conversation, sir.
The Godfather
now we can have a
2.
conversation. That I can't speak to. I've never seen either of the Godfather films.
What, any of the three?
None of them. I played the game on PS2 for a very brief moment, or PSP or whatever I played it on for a very brief moment, but outside of that, nothing.
Overcooked 2 is better than Overcooked 1.
Nothing from your boy Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah,
Sure.
Fair enough.
There are definitely sequels over it.
About the idea of giving away the Overcooked game free on PlayStation Plus. Not because it's bad, because I'm actually excited to play it, but I've got no one else to play it with because it's only on PS5.
Oh shit! Well, you can play it with us when we finally get back to playing it.
Well, when you finally get oh yeah, sure. In that sense, yeah, sure.
Because then you'll still be playing Overcooked. You just won't playing All You Can Eat, which I believe is Overcooked 1 and 2.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Which is good, but like I don't know. Maybe Overcooked 1 will be free on here at some point, and we'll just. I know it's got all the DLC in it as well.
It's I'm not against it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against it at all. Just saying.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. And we just it's just sad that we only have Overcooked 2 instead of All You Can Eat. Otherwise, we'd be playing All You Can Eat.
I just wish they gave away it on the PS4 version as opposed to the PS5 version. But...
Oh sure. Yeah, that's fair. You can still play it on PC with us. Do some Overcooked. When we will get around, we will do it again at some point. I'm sure it's not too far off. We just have to sort out our streaming schedules and make sure that we're all happy and ready to go.
Sure.
You know those words. We're not too far off. We are actually pretty close to actually getting everything sorted out with streams. I think we just need to, all be around at the same time and turn up. Shit. Oh god, you can catch us streaming on this Twitch that you're watching. And if you're not watching the Twitch, it's fine.
Sometimes we're there. Twitch.tv.
Yes, the Paralympics is done now.
The Paralympics is done. Not to say it was just Charlie's fault. No, I mean we're all kind of a bit over the place for the last let's say the last month we were all a bit over the place.
Last decade.
I mean for the last decade. I mean for us, you and me particularly, like the last decade has been. We've been meaning to do something for the last 10 years. It was just.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
We're getting there. We've got an interview with an indie developer on our channel right now.
True.
How big is that? Not just any old indie developer. The one that they're all talking about.
Exactly. Somehow.
Do you know? I asked him. I didn't ask him, but I was like, it just came up in conversation. I was surprised that you said yes, and he was like, "Well, I'm not exactly inundated with interviews right now." So I was like, "Okay, fair enough, mate.
Fair enough.
Fair plays. Like nobody.
Do
wants
you
to
know
talk
anyone
to
else
the
who isn't
composer.
inundated that should be?
Well,
And do you have their email address?
I feel like we've taken a good stride here in talking to the composer and not the developer of the game. We want to talk about the music of the game. That's perfectly fucking fine. Because nobody else in the entire games industry wants to talk about the music of video games.
Fucking because they don't fucking care. They don't care about them. What I consider to be one of, if not the most impactful parts of a video game.
I actually agree. I actually do agree with that. Do you, Charlie? Do you agree that music's most impactful, one of the most impactful moments of video games?
I mean,
I think it's definitely. I definitely think is one of the most impactful aspects of a video.
It's
game.
one of the
sure.
4 key aspects I would consider. You know, the gameplay, the story, the graphics, and the sound. They're the 4 key aspects of a game I would consider. Most people, I believe, consider only 3 aspects of the game, and that's the gameplay, the story, and the graphics. We don't tend to consider the sound. Sadly.
I mean, and as you can see from the first 8 hours of this podcast, we talk about music a lot. So
we talk about music. I mean, it's a thing. Like we love music. We love video games. We love video game music. Why not? Why not talk about that a bit?
Unless it's the music of a sequel, then
You're kind of like, no, I hate. The only Final Fantasy soundtrack I like is the first one.
Only the first one and none of the others.
Oh yeah. How do you feel about a game being called like Final Fantasy 13, Charlie?
I just think Final Fantasy is the stupidest thing in the world. But
to be fair though, with
of course you do. You hate sequels.
It's not because I hate sequels. I just find it insane. I just find it insane that you can get to Final Fantasy 15, and that's
why?
not even
Because
the
the name
one.
says final.
It's not even the 15th one.
Is it just the final joke that you're getting?
And although to be fair to Final Fantasy, they mostly do different things inside them, don't they? So.
They almost all of them are like different games. Also, a lot of them have different development teams. Like, especially more recently, like especially after the SNES era.
Okay, Charlie. How about this? How do you feel about a game being called Final Fantasy 13-2?
Just call it something else. I don't know. It's not, and this isn't even like a dig at it being called Final or something. I just don't understand the naming. Like 13-2, but this isn't just a Final Fantasy issue. This is a flipping.
This is a games industry issue.
387 days over 4 or whatever the hell that game was. Like
Kingdom Hearts is 348 over 2 days.
It's pure insanity.
Right, let's not. I mean, getting into the. To be fair,
if anything,
right, Final Fantasy has relatively normal naming conventions compared to Kingdom Hearts. Like,
yeah, but everything has normal naming conventions compared to Kingdom Hearts. What I would say is, if anything, I respect it more because it's just pure lunacy. 13-2, 365 over 4. You know, I almost respect it more because it's purely.
You get 13-2 when you have 13 games that are in entirely separate universes. You get 350 whatever over 2 days when you're a mental patient.
Just what about what was the other one? Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, was it?
Yeah, Birth by Sleep.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means, Adam. Please tell me what that means.
You'll have to play the games to understand. Oh.
If I played that game,
I
Adam, I want you to be honest with me. If I played that game, would I understand why it is called that? I'm gonna assume from that would be a resounding no.
I would say maybe, but it depends how deeply you think on it and how open for metaphor you are.
Wow. Okay, bro. Okay, buddy.
Because, like, it does sort of make sense, but, like, it also...
If you have to go, how open for metaphor are you? That's maybe where I start to draw a bit of a laugh.
I think, and this isn't exactly, but I think, because it's not... I don't think it's thoroughly, like, 100% explained, but I think Birth by Sleep literally just means that a character goes to sleep and another character is born from that.
But That doesn't make sense.
It does. Why does that not make sense?
Because what? You just talk about like dreams and shit because they're not real.
No, he's not. No, not born from his dreams. I mean, right? This is Kingdom Hearts is messy, right? But
Fucking clearly.
but there are characters that are joined by their hearts. One character in particular called Ventus, who is joined with Sora, the main character of Kingdom Hearts, for some reason. Ventus ends up going in a coma, hence sleep. Birthing some kind of power in Sora is what I'm going to stretch as what birth by sleep means.
People like this.
To be fair, like to be fair with Kingdom Hearts, like what's best about Kingdom Hearts isn't all the bullshit surrounding it. It's like the moments where all the characters are genuine, like they're just being genuine with each other and stuff like that. They're like genuine, wholesome moments. There are moments where things are like cool things are happening. There are moments where you think Goofy died, and you go, "What? They can't kill Goofy. That's ridiculous. How dare they kill Goofy of all people?"
And we were right. They wouldn't kill Goofy.
And then it turns out they didn't kill Goofy. Goofy just turns up the next scene like, "You alright, guys?" And everyone's like, "Goofy, I thought you were dead." And he's like, "Nah, I'm fine." What are you talking about? Like, it's the audacity of Kingdom Hearts is like nonsense that makes also Kingdom Hearts great, but then also makes it horrific at times. Like, also the combat's really good in general. Like, the combat's just great in those games. Just in general.
I'm glad you really like the combat, Adam.
You do. I mean, I assume you've never played Kingdom Hearts before.
I have attempted to play a Kingdom Hearts game. I got bored very quickly.
Which Kingdom Hearts game did you play?
I don't know, like one or two. I played it at a mate's house.
Sure. I like, especially if you're starting from the beginning. Like, it's Kingdom Hearts 1's very dated. It's aged very badly. It's a PS2 game. So
that's the one I tried and I struggled.
Kingdom Hearts 2 is still probably one of the best in the series. Birth by Sleep's very strong. But like legit, like as long as you don't give a shit about the story, you can jump into Kingdom Hearts 3 and just really enjoy the combat, and it'll be fine. Like you won't even necessarily be all that lost from the story because everyone else is just as lost as you are. Like, it doesn't even matter that much. Everyone else is just as lost as you are. Only you won't recognize when some character comes up, rises out of the darkness, and goes, "You're too late, Mickey."
You're too late, Mickey.
Mickey
yes,
goes, "It's Aqua," and Aqua goes, "You're too late, Mickey." And then you'll just be like, "I don't know what's going on." Whereas the entire audience of Kingdom Hearts were like, "No!" Which happened. I remember that being in the I think it was the Xbox trailers. You know, when it was before it came out, there was a bunch of trailers happening for Kingdom Hearts 3, like E3s and stuff like that. And I remember watching people reacting to that trailer because, like, it's so interesting to see the Kingdom Hearts fan base react to a trailer in which a character that is quite a beloved character turns up and is evil.
I can't remember. I might be remembering this wrong, but didn't like Square Enix try and like copyright people who were reacting to those trailers?
I don't think so. Maybe though. I think the problem with Kingdom Hearts music specifically is that it's owned by a lot of different people. So like anything that uses Utada Hikaru's songs tends to get copyrighted immediately because Sony are on it. Like fuck, like Sony music, Sony's record label, whatever they're actually called. Then also all of the Disney music is owned by Disney, and Disney are on it like fuck. So like, imagine, if you will, that Kingdom Hearts 3 has a world based on the hit movie Frozen, and in the hit movie Frozen world, they sing the song "Let It Go."
Leave it out.
Now, imagine if Disney were hearing all of these renditions of "Let It Go" on YouTube, and we're going, "Hold on a minute, we own that song, right?"
That's ours, isn't it? It's ours.
So
Dave,
like,
Dave,
basically,
let it go. It's our us.
because Kingdom Hearts is owned by so many different properties and so many different people. Copyright is all over the fucking place for that show. Like,
makes sense.
Legit. Like, the Utada stuff is copyrighted by Sony, and Sony fucking hate everything. The Disney stuff is owned by Disney, and Disney are fucking horrendous. Like, if anything, Square Enix are the nicer ones, because like nobody copies all of the Final Fantasy music.
Disney and Sony are already at fucking war, aren't they?
With fucking Spider-Man and stuff, I guess, right?
How long do you give it before Disney decides to try and buy Sony?
They've probably investigated it.
They probably have, yeah. I imagine back when they wanted to get Spider-Man, they were literally like, how much do we need to throw at Sony to buy them?
Well, I remember I remember when I was a kid and Chelsea had just started buying everyone in the league. Because this is when Romero Abramovich first took over and they had all of the money in the world. And I remember speaking to my dad once about
a bit like what City are doing, or at least what City are trying to do right now.
Well, it's what they've done for years. But I remember speaking to my dad about it once, and I said, I don't understand why Chelsea don't just go and buy Ronaldinho, who was one of the best players in the world at that point.
Yeah.
And he said, if you think they haven't tried, then you're wrong. and ever since then, I'm just like, yeah, no, that makes sense. So when you're like, how long do you reckon it be before they start? I can guarantee there's almost certainly
like if you think that Disney haven't tried to buy Sony,
haven't at least given it a thought.
They've I think with all of those games companies, like I think with every games company they have a somewhat relationship with, Disney have gone, we should buy them.
Yeah, probably.
Like the amount of times I think I hear people going Disney and Nintendo, like there's
conversations about there's the legitimate real conversations right now about Disney and WWE. Like,
although that's not so surprising.
Well, I mean,
I feel like that's sort of the kind of property that Disney would love to snatch up, and then have a monopoly in a wrestling world.
They are starting to own a scary amount of the world, and I don't
they've been owning a scary amount of the world for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Now they've just got The Simpsons, and everyone kicked off because they got The Simpsons, and it's like, come on, man, they've been owning a lot more than The Simpsons since I was a kid, like.
People don't care about corporate monopolies until it's something they like.
And this is why with a Fox thing, people are like, X-Men, yay.
They dropped like what 4.4 billion in George Lucas's lap and say, "Here, give us Star Wars."
They did just buy LucasArts, didn't they? Yeah, I can't remember what they just did. They just were like, "Here, LucasArts, yeah, us now. Let's cancel all the Star Wars stuff and make our own Star Wars stuff now." Cool.
Yeah, if anything, a lot of the time they celebrate it.
Yeah, like, that was something to celebrate.
I don't know. Was it?
Well,
I regularly hear the words Disney ruined Star Wars, and I go, oh yeah, because Attack of the Clones was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna say no. George Lucas ruined Star
Wars. George Lucas ruined Star Wars. If anything, Disney had no hand in it.
Continued the trend.
If anything, I think Disney were just like, fuck it, we'll just profit off it more than anything. I don't think even they were that bothered about continuing. They're just like, yeah, fuck it. Do what you want, mate. I don't care. Make your money
from it.
Yeah, that's all they need. Just let's continue making money from it. It's fine. Yeah, George Lucas. If anyone ruined Star Wars, it was George Lucas.
I strongly agree. But
I'm just saying.
I think it's one of those things, you know. It just is. They 100% have had conversations about it. They just they at the spreadsheet, the graph of how much they get out of it and how much it would cost have not crossed yet. The meeting of
I wonder when Square Enix is. I know that I'm guaranteed they've spoken about it. I guarantee they've been like, we can buy Square Enix. Because of not even just because of the Kingdom Hearts relationship, but because of like a bunch of other stuff that they like. There was, I think it was in Rogue One where they had an actor in like full, not motion capture because he's dead, like full animated person, like a full animated version of a man. And I was you know what, like, and he looks very similar to how the characters in Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15 look, the movie. And I'm like, you know, like, I wouldn't be so shocked if Disney were just like, yo, Square, give us this tech bitch. Like, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder how close they are to being like, fuck it, we can buy all of Square Enix, and they can be our game. And I, to a degree, I mean, before the Avengers thing came out, I was kind of, up for the idea of Square Enix working with Disney because I figured, like, you know, they can't do worse than EA, but we know what happened with the Avengers game, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Although we still got the Guardians of the Galaxy game, we could that could be good. That could be good.
I mean, hopefully that turns out all right. It looks a little bit
Yeah.
dead at the moment, but like it's got ideas in it.
It does. It looks far more interesting than the Avengers game ever looked, which is it's something.
No, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
yeah. Right.
Corporate monopolies equally suck. There you go.
They
Have that.
they do. Yeah, I think that's a good way
That's
to
something
end this.
you can all get behind.
This is a good way to end this.
They're a bit
Corporate
dog
monopolies.
shit. Corporate monopolies, just get rid.
Always
please.
suck.
Don't like them.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone who's been listening, watching on Twitch.
Thanks. God, that was a lot of shit, wasn't it?
It was a good hour and a half, good hour and 40. I think we had a lot to say, and yeah, we had a nice chat. Yeah. What are we doing? What's happening? What are we on next? We're on Sunday nights. Sunday night, me and Charlie will be playing Streets of Rage 4 over on the Twitch channel, Twitch TV / sometimes video games. We need to download it first, but that's that. You can always go to our YouTube channel. As I've said, we've got a couple of things out there this week. We've got the review for Blake, the visual novel, and the interview with Ramsey Karubi, otherwise known as Marsky, from the Boyfriend Dungeon soundtrack. So over on YouTube / sometimes video games. Anything else I'm missing?
Nah.
Fair call. Yeah.
Nah.
Check it out, and give us a follow if you'd like to. We should be back next week with more podcast stuff anyway. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for listening, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.